first in podcast. Hello, Geno. How are you?
Hey, Keith, how are you?
Doing well.
I went today, got my real ID, and what an experience. And I know there's probably nobody on here that works in the state, especially in the Bridgeville office, but kudos to them. They have a very hard job. I sat back and just watched by myself. They deal with a lot at that PennDOT driver's license center. It took like 3.5 hours to get it, but I got my real ID today. So that's really been my day.
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot of real jag-offs.
I mean, the people that work there,
Well,
yes, but there's a lot of people that are very frustrated with.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
yeah, it's quite comical. Yeah. I found a back seat where I could kind of view everything, and people watch for 3.5 hours. It's pretty fun.
Did you get your Powerball ticket?
No,
it's a little over 1 billion. Well, you can still get it. It goes off tonight, 11 o'clock. So
yeah,
after the podcast, could get it.
We're going to do the podcast from Tahiti, I think. Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I don't know if I'll be on the podcast next week if I hit the.
Oh, you're going to be on it. You might be on an airplane, a private jet, but you'll be on it.
Maybe for my yacht on the.
We'll pre-tape it. Yeah, we'll pre-tape it from the beach.
All right, so we got a good show this tonight. We got Chief Dillon Coleman from the Berkeley Hills Fire Company, Station 247. We're going to talk about their live-in program, but they have quite a successful live-in program, so I'm anxious to learn about it. Before we get there, I want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, FireCam, the one and only manufacturer of helmet cameras built for firefighters for over a decade. FireCam has been hell-bent on making durable, heat-resistant cameras worthy of the fire service. But they don't stop there. FireCam.com also has dash cam, body cams, drones, and more. Check them out at FireCam.com. Let's go to Geno for a little training moment.
Yeah, so Keith reached out to me earlier and said, hey, want to do it? You want to make this a segment, or do you want to keep this going? So I said, sure, as long as I can come up with a couple good topics, or at least one good topic. But first, before I start anything, I want to give a happy birthday to my daughter, Lex, my stepdaughter, really. She's my daughter. She turns 27 today. So if everybody knows Lex, reach out to her on social media or text her and tell her happy birthday.
Nice. Happy birthday, Lex.
Yeah. So let's jump into this. So you always hear that term. It's a term that's probably been a while for a while, but it's really come to the forefront as that combat ready term. And I don't mean any harm to anybody that has that trademarked or anything like that. But what I mean by that is, it seems to me like when you say those terms on a daily basis or a day-to-day basis, not that you shouldn't be ready to do this, but it seems like it takes my heart rate up. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you're combat ready. And you're like, whoo, to where, and I'm not saying we have to coddle or any of that stuff, but what I'm saying is, how about just being ready to do one of the most dangerous jobs in this country, besides probably those fishermen up in the north, up in Alaska. Firefighting is up there, obviously, is one of the most dangerous jobs. So how are we ready for it? Are we ready for it physically or mentally? What does combat ready mean to you, though, Keith? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like,
I don't know. It seems like I'm going to war, I guess.
Right. But what I'm saying is, on that, the idea of the combat ready or the ready to do the job, what does that entail for you? Like, as far as
it's a mindset and having your mind ready to, be prepared for anything that gets thrown at you, I guess.
Right. And your mindset might be a little different because of you're just driver operator kind of for Pleasant Hills. Yeah. A little bit different than maybe a captain in your department or whatever. But you always have to be physically and mentally ready for the job, right?
Right.
It just has to be. So first of all, is just knowing your job, like just knowing what to do when those tones drop, when the bell hits, or whatever that word you use for that. And what it is. So do you have an idea every time you get on a rig for every kind of scenario that we might be confronted with? And I mean, what we're dispatched as, CO alarm to working fire to, whatever, crash with entrapment or whatever. And being able to know where things are, right? It's the very first thing we teach firefighters, at least when I joined was you got to know where everything's at, right? An older firefighter will come up to you and say, "Where's the the tool bag or whatever," and you got to know where it's at. If you don't, you're going to take some shit, and so that's a big part of being that physically ready. And then having, and what kind of issues can you be having? Do you have some issues? Do you have more or less equipment in some places? For example, I came from where we came from, a upper middle class community that was provided not only through fundraising, but through budget, a lot of nice equipment and plenty of it. To when in the early 2000s, when I started in McKeesport, where I work now, times were tough and the budgets were tight, and we had one axe on each rig. So there was an axe on, we had two engines at the time. So there was an axe on one engine and an axe on the other. If you broke that axe, you had to go to your chief that next morning and beg him to buy an axe. Now times have changed, and I'll give Chief Tomasek, who I'm sure is probably going to watch this at some point, the most respect and kudos for the equipment that he has provided for us now and brought us up to, and other chiefs too. I won't just say Tomasek, but Jeff has really gotten us a lot of stuff, and thank you, Chief, for that. But before that, you really took care of your stuff because you didn't have much of it.
Yeah.
And then mentally, we talk about mental health all the time in the fire department. I don't know if we've even touched on are you mentally able to respond? Like at that current time. Now, Keith, I'll ask you this. Have there been times, and I'm not talking about any mind altering substances or anything like that. I'm talking about like you're in the middle of life and the tones drop for an accident within entrapment. I always hate to take it to the highest thing, or a high-rise fire. I would just say like an accident within entrapment where the police are calling out and they're saying, "Hey, tell the fire department to step it up. We have 2 people trapped, 3 people trapped," whatever it may be. Has there ever been a time in your fire service career doing this where you think you weren't mentally ready?
No, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. And then same here. And I guarantee you, if you're anybody of a person that can know your weaknesses and acknowledge them, are going to say there's been times, you could be in the middle of caring for a loved one who's deathly ill, or you could be arguing with your significant other, and it could be, you know what I mean? You understand that sometimes when those tones drop and that conversation or that argument stops between whoever you're engaged with, that just doesn't go away.
Right.
You know what I mean? So sometimes, even though you might be physically ready to go, you might not be mentally ready to go. I have the ability to, or at least I could plan it because I'm going to work for 24 hours. So you try to clean up anything that happens prior to that 8 a.m. start, and then try to, if there's a problem or if it's a good thing or bad thing, you could pick it back up when you're done with your shift. So I can kind of close off that 24 hours and just focus on the job. But it's still on your mind though. I went through a really bad divorce during my middle of my career, and it affected me. And every guy, and I'm man enough to admit this, every guy that interacted with me for that 1 year will tell you how it mentally affected them, because it was affecting me.
Mm-hmm. So
mentally, is being ready to get on that rig is just as important as physically. And I'll end this because we got another guest coming on here. But physically, I always go back to it. We could take a deep dive. And Chris Chiprich, the captain of Peters Township, who was on, he obviously takes physical training and physical health to the no, I wouldn't say to the extreme, but he really cares about it. He's passionate about it. I always just say, just eat half that hoagie and walk around your neighborhood a couple nights a week, and you'll notice the difference in, and I'm speaking to you, but you'll the firefighters out there, you'll notice the difference by just doing those few things. I used to talk about all these things. I would sneak them into my essentials programs. So these are the things that I would dump into the program through mod 2, 3, sometimes into 4 when we were doing the burns and stuff like that. But you got to be mentally and physically ready for the job. I'm not saying combat ready, but I can understand where people are coming from by using that terminology. But I just be able to look at a guy or a firefighter come to me and say, "Hey, Chief, I got this going on." So I put that in my toolbox for the day that I know that one of my guys' kids is sick at home. You know what I mean? That's going to be it's on his mind all day long.
Yeah.
So other than that, that's my little training moment for this evening. I hope it was satisfying to you and to the guests.
Makes sense. All right, so let's bring on our guest tonight, Chief.
Hey, say hi to Matt for me. Matt Odenthal, he's a Portview guy, and Drosberg.
Right.
Awesome dude.
Chief Dillon Coleman here. Well, welcome to the show, Dillon.
What's going on?
Not much. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing well.
No,
So, main reason we wanted to bring you here is because mainly I want to talk to you about the living program you guys have out there. I know you guys had a pretty successful living program, and want to get some details on it, how it works for you guys. So,
Yeah, no doubt.
let us know about it.
I can't take any sort of credit for establishing the program. I mean, there's, organizations all over the country that had successful live-in programs that we kind of modeled ours off of and adapted and made it work for us. But at a time, there was not a live-in program here. We were mainly a home response station, to the point where there were members who were starting to sleep at the firehouse back in probably the early 90s. And there were people that were mad about it, to the point where they made a rule that you had to have at least 1 foot on the ground inside the firehouse at all times. So crazy rule to have, but that prevented them from putting both of their legs up and taking a nap on a couch or, staying overnight and we didn't have beds at the time, so they were sleeping on the couch. So obviously we
didn't want you sleeping there back then?
What's that?
They didn't want you sleeping there back then?
No, absolutely not. They didn't want anyone sleeping there. It was a firehouse. You came down for fire calls and, for bingo or dances or whatever hall rental was there. You had to work it. We were just like any other firehouse back in the 90s, doing hall rentals of, bingos, dances. They did a big Christmas tree burn for a while. But it's obviously evolved quite a bit. We don't even rent out our classroom anymore. Well, classroom now, it was a hall back then. But we started staffing the firehouse back in the early to mid 90s. And at that time, it was after our QRS program was established, and it was for QRS calls during holiday because of how congested McKnight Road gets with Ross Park Mall, all of the businesses in that corridor. It was terrible trying to get up and down McKnight Road for the ambulance. So they started doing shifts. I don't know exactly what the shifts were. It was probably 6-8 hours, maybe. Squad shifts, and that's where they started staffing.
Okay.
But the actual live-in program started to really develop after we almost failed on a house fire in our first two. It was Kinsdale Drive, and we weren't okay with that. We weren't okay with letting the public down in a sense of taking 10, 12, 13 minutes to get out the door for a house fire with a child trapped. The fire marshal at the time, he stopped at the firehouse to drive the fire truck to the fire, where they had a successful victim rescue. I can't remember if it was us or if it was Ross Rescue 40, but they made a victim rescue at that fire. And then years later, that individual ended up joining the firehouse for a little bit, but
wow, that's cool.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy to see things go full circle like that.
Yeah.
But at our current state right now, we have 8 live-ins. We renovated back in 2018. That right there, that is a picture of our common bunk room. So people who come from out of town, they'll set up shop in there for the night. You see the Home Depot bin. A lot of people have like their linens and stuff in that, pillows, blankets, whatever they need to stay the night. And we have a little storage area for them to keep that. And they can, come in, set up their bed, and get ready for their overnight tour. Yeah, we have 8 live-ins now. We had 10 a couple months ago, but we had one go to the Marines. We had one get another apartment. So it's a constant up and down.
So they each, sorry to interrupt, they each have their own like little private room, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So we have 8 completely private rooms in the bunk room there. That's the dorm hallway.
Mhm.
They don't go up the entire way.
Okay.
You can kind of see like a little bit of space there. Whenever we did our renovation, they wanted us to basically outfit it like I think they said like a hotel room, basically, where
Okay.
you had to have a detector, a fire alarm in every room, a sprinkler in every room, and that was kind of our work around it. So it's a 3/4 wall, and then on this side, there's more private rooms. There's 3 additional private rooms on this side, and then that common bunk room, the picture of the bunk beds.
Wow, you guys have a big. I didn't realize how big the building was.
Yeah, it's pretty big. But before that, I don't know if Keith had the pictures. It was some of the older pictures of just the wooden bunk beds with like sheets hanging over it. That's what the live-in program started with, was just you got a bunk and that was it. Some people kept all their clothes in a locker. There was a shared dresser with 6 drawers, and there was probably six dudes back in the day sharing the dresser. So it was tight quarters.
We have common bunk rooms at work.
Yeah,
both firehouses. We just recently got a deputy's quarters. We renovated the deputy's office so I'm separate from the guys, but it's right off the bunk. It's like their beds are right on the other side of the wall. But
yeah. We whenever we had 10 live-ins, we had one more on the waiting list, and we had a room that was kind of like a smaller lounge.
mm-hmm.
We have the bigger day room with the TVs and a couple couches. That's a picture of it there. And we actually turned that smaller lounge into another shared bedroom to get 2, possibly 3 additional beds in there if we make one of them a bunk bed. Just because the demand was there, and we see the benefit in the program. Our turnout times are great. They're getting along great. They all want to be here for the right reasons, and I couldn't ask for a better group of live-ins.
Dillon, question, and if my memory serves me correctly, at least back when I remember it, I can't remember when that would be, but a lot of them are college students, correct?
Yeah, either college students or college age students. There's a couple of them there.
Okay.
They're 2 live-ins, and it's a nice place to ride fire trucks. They both came from out of the area. They wanted a different opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit busier of a firehouse, a different culture, or what have you. But we have requirements for our live-ins. They are to do 40 hours a week to maintain their room.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of a couple certifications of Fire One, they're supposed to get EMT. They also have to either be a full-time student,
Mm-hmm.
they have to be a full-time employee, or they have to be a combination of both. So they can go to college and have a part-time job kind of deal. But that we don't just let people live at the firehouse, for whatever.
Yeah.
They have to be a productive member of society.
So what do you mean they have to do 40 hours a week of shifts, or how does that work?
Yeah, so since probably 2018, we started keeping track of the hours that we staff the firehouse, and it's been on a couple different programs. One was an in-house credit system that our IT guys designed. And then we switched to one where you can kind of pre-plan your week and you can see the schedule. We just recently partnered with First Due through the township, and we elected to spend a little bit extra money on the scheduling portion. So on top of our stipend program being scheduled through that, they also are scheduling their volunteer hours through that. Last year, I think we logged 36,000 hours or something like that. And I submitted that to the township in our final report. And, there's a website that you can go on and put a monetary value to the hourly staffing. And it was like $1.5 million we would have had to pay these dudes if they were making a salary for it. So we were like, you're giving us $80,000 a year. We're worth in staffing $1.5 million. So
it's just, if you have a full-time job or you're doing a combination, you're going to school and you're working part-time, it seems like a lot that you still have to commit 40 hours to be on the schedule there. Can you do that? Can they do it at like night when they're sleeping, or is that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of dudes, they're signing up for their shifts overnight or on their days off. I don't live here anymore. I took advantage of the program for almost 9 years.
Wow.
And I was not living at the firehouse at this time back in 05, even though I wanted to. But yeah, they're able to maintain 40 hours pretty easily. Across 7 days a week. I'm no mathematician, but it's a couple hours. You get most of that while you're sleeping.
And right now you have just while we got this photo up too. So your dad was a past chief of the fire company too?
No, he was never a chief. I don't even think he was ever an officer, a lieutenant, or anything like that. It would be a little bit too much of a conflict. He's a supervisor at the local EMS rescue service, so he didn't really want the conflicting roles. But he helped out a lot with training. He's been an instructor since, I don't know, the Nixon administration. But he's taught all over, taught me a ton, taught our guys a ton. He was just at the Berkeley Academy this past summer, and there's no one that can teach a victim rescue as good as him, especially in our department. So I'm very fortunate to have him on our roster and as my dad.
That's awesome.
So back to the live-in program, you said you currently have 8 live-ins?
Yeah, we have 8 right now.
Is that your max, or you can go up to 10?
No, we can go up to 10. We have 2 open rooms right now.
And you say you get some people from out of state or out of town that join these programs?
Yep, we have members all the way down, active members all the way down into South Carolina. I have two firemen that come up pretty, I wouldn't say frequent, but steady. About once a quarter, they'll come up and ride for 16, 24 hours, something like that. But it's always good to have them come up and, spend time with us, show us something that they do down there or that they learn down there, because there's, 100 different ways to do everything in the fire service. If they do something down there that works for them and is, might be beneficial for us to know how to do it, it's just another play for the playbook,
Yeah. So when you guys have a call, your members that are coming from home, do they go to the scene?
No, unfortunately, with the live-in program, your home response kind of takes a decline. We had a pretty significant decline in home response since about 2007, 2008. And if there's a significant incident, we'll start to get the people who don't normally come out for, the minor calls. But we really don't have much home response anymore. We can kind of tell when we need help. If you look at the schedule and you're like, oh man, we're really not going to have anybody today, we'll start sending out messages. We have a group chat, it's called Sleeping While You're Creeping instead of Creeping While You're Sleeping. That was the home responder chat. One of our home responders came up with that, Rob Pitt. He was one of our biggest home responders and just moved to Australia. So unfortunately, he can't home respond from Australia. But if we give a heads up to the home responders that, hey, we need staffing, sometimes some of them will come up, especially if we just need a driver. There's a couple of them. Yeah, I'll be up. I'll come in for a couple hours. So it's beneficial to have them around, but we don't really home respond. Even those dudes that are local, if they know that we need staffing, they're just going to come up and hang out for a little while. Whether it be
what apparatus do you have? I know you have an engine and truck and.
Yeah, so we have a 2016 Pierce Enforcer. That's our engine. We have a 2012 Aero XT ladder tower. It's 100-foot. And then we have two Tahoes. One's 2018, one's 2019. One's our QRS vehicle that we respond to a lot of our medicals with. And then the other one's a duty chief vehicle that is for the chief officers and the lower level line officers.
And what kind of call volume you guys seen?
So last year we had our busiest year in a long time, especially for fire calls. I think it was our busiest year ever for fire calls. We did 2,100 calls.
Wow.
And 1,008 of those were fire calls.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We have had busier years, but a large volume of that was QRS. We used to run E0s through E4s all throughout our district, and we ran 4 of the 8 districts in Ross for E0s through E4s. And I think that those years they were running like 2,200, 2,300 calls.
Wow.
But I'm sure 1,800 of them were first responder.
The other thing you mentioned, the stipend program, you guys still doing it? And how's that work?
Yeah. So we just got a SAFER grant last year. So in January, we kicked off our stipend program. I kind of based it off of a couple different programs. I liked the way that a couple of them did things. I wanted to make a couple different changes. Our minimum staffing on the engine is 3 people. So my goal was to have that engine staffed 24/7, 365, 3 people on it. And the first couple months, we were real good with it. Recently, especially since summer, it's starting to die down, especially during the daylight hours. But the stipend pay isn't the best. It's like $7 for a 4-hour block, but we knew that we weren't really going to be drawing people in with it. It was more so just an incentive for the people who were at our firehouse. We were hoping to get a couple people like, oh, maybe, since I'm getting a little bit of pocket change, I can go up and that can be my justification to, finally submit my application. The guys just see it as kind of a benefit. They're here for the right reasons. They don't care if they were getting pocket change for it or not. They want to be here.
Could just use it for house fund or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next thing we want to sort of go into is, unless you had anything else.
Before that, I have a question. Because I've talked to other firefighters, not through the podcast, but through just knowing people, and they have live-in programs in their firehouses. And one of the things I learned from one of these departments was, so you got a bunch of young men, mostly, right? 20s probably. They go out, right? What are the rules after, like, say they've gone out with their buddies for the evening and had a few and are they allowed to come back to the firehouse? How does that? So
they do live at the firehouse. So that's always a slippery slope. We have a zero tolerance policy for responding to emergencies within 8 hours of your last sip of alcohol. So it's zero tolerance. The people who are local, that they go over to friends' houses. If they're drinking, they're just going to stay there. It prevents them from driving anyway. It's like,
But do you guys have a policy on somebody coming back intoxicated and crashing?
As a live-in,
yeah,
they're allowed to go to their room, but they're not to be in the firehouse. Whatever.
I won't mention who it was because it's not on this in this area, but yeah, they're not allowed in the firehouse if they're currently inebriated. So they have to actually rent a room somewhere, or hopefully a friend lets them sleep on the couch. I think that would, you're and a responsible adult, just as if they're living there, come home, crash. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Moving from.
He got stuck.
Yeah, give it a second here. This is why his phone's cutting out, or his iPad's cutting out a little bit.
You see what I do mean, though, Keith?
You guys hear me?
Yep, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, they're allowed to come back and crash. You know what I mean? Just you're not allowed on a rig for 8 hours. Try not to have interactions with anybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
I guess maybe think some other questions before we get off this topic. So you were talking about the home responders had declined a lot once the live-in program sort of came up. Is there any other drawbacks you see to the live-in program?
One of the things that was another, kind of concern that some people had voiced was the utility bills. Obviously, with 8 people living under the same roof, your water's going to go up. Water is kind of the main one, but HVAC, if you're keeping the HVAC at a reasonable temperature, it's fine. Electricity, you're charging phones, you're charging laptops. The place is occupied almost 24/7. Your utility bills are going to go up. That is the price of having a staffed firehouse is the way that we look at it. We have a laundry room for them to do their laundry in. They're taking showers there. It's all the price you pay for, a 53-second turnout time last month and a CPR save last month. If you want the staffing, there's going to be some associated costs with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot cheaper than paying a full-time, salaried fire department. So
yeah. I saw a comment pop up on the groceries.
Mike.
I don't.
Oh, Mike's a Bethel guy. He's a good dude.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we don't buy their groceries. If they did, I'd be a lot fatter than I already am. There'd be Oreos in the kitchen all the time. But no, they buy their own groceries. They come in a lot of nights. We try to every night have dinner together, whether we're making it or we run out to grab pizza or whatever. But we try and eat dinner together every night. Everyone buys their own groceries. They pitch up, $12 a head for meal. So there was a rumor going around in the area that the firehouse was buying the members meals, and we're just it was funny. Yeah, Red Bull too.
So you got the SAFER grant, you said the grant this year and that's for staffing for the stipend program?
Yeah, for recruitment and retention is what it was marketed as. You're able to do a stipend program through that. It gets you gear. So all of our new recruits get a set of gear sized specifically for them, which that was brand new to us. I was a member for 5 years before I got my own set of gear. There's guys out here now that have been here for a year that are getting a set of gear. So, at $5,000 a set of gear, that's definitely a financial burden lifted from us. We're very fortunate to have that. They're getting NFPA 1582 physicals done, and that's how they justify the fit for duty, and then they go to get their gear after that.
And you guys previously got a SAFER grant too, right? To do your bunk rooms?
Nope.
I thought
No,
you-
our
years back.
bunk rooms were alone.
Oh, okay. I
Yeah.
thought some years back you got a grant or something to help redo those.
No, that was a loan that we decided to take out. It was if I'm correct, it was a loan to finish paying off the engine and do a complete renovation of the back.
So if you got one last question on this, the living programs and staffing, if you can wave a magic wand and get anything you wanted, what would you hope for to help with your staffing?
I would say another 8 live-ins. 8 live-ins, clone the exact dudes that I have now. Expand off the back end and get another 8 dudes, private rooms for them, nicer bathrooms. Our bathrooms are nice, but they could use a little bit of help now that we're 5 years out from that renovation. I would say
What was the minimum livings you guys ever had?
the lowest number we've ever had. We were down to 1 at one point in the past 5 years.
Wow.
It was actually close to whenever I took over as chief. There were some ugly days whenever I first took over of responding from home to get a fire truck out, and I live almost 16 minutes away, non-emergency drive time. With lights and siren, it's a little bit easier, about 12 minutes, but 12 minutes to get a piece of apparatus out is, it's unacceptable.
Who applies for grants?
Yeah, who does your grants there?
We have a grant committee. One of our members heads it up, and I assist him with the grants. We were able to get some advice from Chief Sahida from down your neck of the woods on a couple of things whenever they came out to do the fire study in the township. And he was like, have you guys ever tried applying for the Safer Grant? And we were like, no. He was like, I think you should. And, he gave us a couple pointers on it. And a couple months later, we got an email that changed the way we operate for the next 4 years.
Nice. Speaking of that, so I was reading about that, about the let's before I get that. So regarding the policy regarding laying lines and writs. So we'll get to Nick, we'll get to that in a second. But before we get to that, the study that Chief Sahida was part of, what's going on with that? What are the results of that?
So the township is ready to take action. They had a meeting last night. They're discussing hiring a director of fire services for the township, and we have a part-time fire marshal in the township right now. They're one of the things that the director of fire services is going to do is determine whether or not they need a full-time fire marshal, and they do. That Jimmy is our fire marshal, and he is busy every single day. He's coming up here, with reports for me. This Knox box is being installed. This building's getting torn down. I had to go see these people. I was like, and then he's responding to, incidents past his part-time hours. He's been doing a full-time job on part-time hours for a very long time.
It's back to live-ins. Another question. So your live-ins typically, when they move on, how successful have they been getting into the public safety field and careers?
Good. Our live-in program definitely breeds a path of success for people. We have career firemen down in South Carolina, Virginia. We had some in Maryland. The other side of the state. If they weren't live-ins, they were doing a decent amount of hours here. We have a rookie book that is 9 chapters long. It usually takes people about 6 months to get through it. And it just starts from the basics and builds up on things that we found that work. From your riding assignments, you need to know whose job it is to take the door, what tools you need to take with you on a commercial occupancy, what things need to go into your OVM report on a side Charlie of a building. Tools that you need to take, how to do a VES, what a strip cut is, what a trench cut is, just outlines everything.
Nice. Well, it's there was a question from Chief Price. Oh, what that question was about. So we can throw that back up there.
Yeah, maybe we can throw
that last was Ryan Stouffer. I don't know if you know Ryan or not. He's originally a Mount Oliver guy. And I think he's out in Ligonier now. There's dad's at least out in Ligonier, I think.
Yeah, Ryan, he did a little bit of time at Berkeley.
Okay.
Yep.
Something about you guys have policy, you're on lane lines and RIT.
Yeah. So we lay out for pretty much everything that is a by counties type code, a Res 1, a COM 1, and now they've expanded to 17 other types of 1s and 2s, high life hazard, mixed occupancy, FR non 1, all kinds of stuff. But if there's a report of smoke, odorous smoke, flame seen, the engine is responsible for getting into the map book, finding the closest hydrant, and initiating a water supply. They don't have to necessarily establish it, meaning putting water into the line, but they have to at least put line in the street to get the process started. We've been doing that since I was a junior, and even before that. But it's better than pulling up and having to hand jack 500, 600, 700 feet of supply line up the street, especially whenever, you take the door and, the building was sealed up so well, you didn't have anything from the street. You got, fire upstairs or, wherever. Me personally, I'd much rather stop at the hydrant for 5 to 10 seconds, get line in the street, and use the 500 horsepower engine to put the line in the street than trying to muscle 500 to 600 feet of 5-inch off the back.
Fair enough. I didn't understand really. So you're doing it for anything that's more than a fire alarm, right? Is that what you're
essentially,
saying? Yeah. So you're not dropping for, and you're not dropping for just every fire alarm or
no.
I mean?
No, we're not dropping for fire alarms. Anything that's a report of odorous smoke seen.
Sure.
We're gonna drop it. And even if we don't need it, that's just another rep that we got in that day. The more you do it, the quicker you can do it. We've made modifications to our engine to be able to lay line quicker. We didn't used to run a HUMAT, but we were in a position of, we're getting out significantly quicker than some of these companies. Realistically, how far is the second due engine from us that they're going to be picking up our line?
I understand.
And, we ran a fire a quarter mile up the street. There was fire. It's on TikTok. Fire was blowing out of the top of this house. And the officer in charge made the decision that we're going to knock this back with the deck gun real quick. It's already through the roof. It's bound to fall down on us if we do go down in, making an interior attack on it. They dumped the deck gun on it, and they were, at a quarter tank. Second due engine wasn't there for another, I think, 12 minutes, if my memory serves me correct. So having that HUMAT valve on there, they were able to leave a guy at the hydrant. They were able to get the water, and whenever the next due showed up, if needed, they were able to boost the pressure off the hydrant. But we have a layout pack on it. That way, if we're doing a split lay, you don't have to wrap it around anything. We have a rope coming off of it. That way, you don't actually have to step up on the tailboard to get the hose out of there. That's saving time and the potential for someone falling off of the hose bed or tailboard. So everything we do, there's a reason behind it.
I completely now understand why you do it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because your second due is not known.
Yeah.
I mean, my second due is known. My second due rig coming out of Renzi or vice versa, if it's a fire on their side of the city or whatever, that second due rig's grabbing the primary water source for me. So that's where we're different. But I totally get that. Like you guys are John Wayne in it with 3-4 guys maybe a little bit more, depending on do you let your guys respond per POV to the scene?
If they're gonna pass it, they can.
So you
We
might have had
we
another
try
hand or
not
two.
to.
You could have had another hand or two, but still, that's not enough.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's not enough to establish command, establish a water supply. You know, send the truck in, or send a couple guys to do truck work initially. You know, whatever. I get it. I applaud you for it. Yeah, absolutely.
So what's the second part of that question is about writ? I don't quite understand the I guess the debate's changing about having writ on deck, or
I don't
next company up is writ. I don't know if you have any comments or opinions on that.
So I think that question probably stems from Blue Card. They do the on deck kind of thing, right?
I'm not sure.
I'm not too familiar with it. I believe that's where it stems from, but we have a dedicated writ dispatched on our first alarm. It is in my district, at least, it's 149 Etna. They get out the door pretty quick. So getting writ established early on to the incident is imperative. Because statistically the maydays happen within the first 5 minutes. It works most of the time. For me, it hasn't worked great a couple of times. Not throwing anyone under the bus, because these fires were not even in my district. But I had command of 4 fires last year. One fire, the writ was understaffed and didn't say anything and showed up. Another one, the writ team didn't hear that they were assigned writ. And I can't remember what the other one was. I think there was just a run card that didn't have writ, or they didn't get out or something. But it's burnt me a couple times. So the next fire I run, I am being blatantly clear. You are writ. Acknowledge you are writ. Side alpha writ. It's not going to happen to me again.
Yeah.
So are you saying, like, you do have a dedicated writ, or you're going to assign somebody writ based off who's there?
So they're dispatched as a dedicated writ. If they don't get out, and either dispatch doesn't notice, they go understaffed and don't say anything, those are all problems that you can run into as an incident commander. And you have 4 or 5 other things going on at the time. It might be a transmission that you miss. It might be, something in the back of your head. But, writ is just as important as the first due engine, first due truck.
Absolutely.
Because whenever shit hits the fan and you don't have anyone standing out front dedicated as writ, everyone's kind of just looking at each other.
Yeah, I think I might have said this in the podcast before, but we were, whenever I was coming up in captain, and then obviously as deputy at work, my question was, okay, you are designated my writ, right? My chief assigns companies that are going to respond to my city as writ.
Yeah,
I get it. It has to, and obviously. But what I secretly did, and I'm sure it wasn't really big of a secret, I actually I developed a writ survival hybrid program through Westmoreland, and I delivered it to every one of my second alarm companies. And I just said, hey, I'm going to come down and give you a 16, 24-hour class, whatever you would like. And we're going to do written survival. And I basically trained them to save my guys. And they obviously got educated, but that was my way of, like, okay, at least I'm going to be able to touch the majority of the guys that are coming on my second alarm from the communities that help us, my mutual aid departments. But yeah, writ has to happen. Writ, we go through this debate all the time, and there's a labor issue with it. As you can imagine, we're a local, so dedicating a writ on every one of our first alarms, the guys that are off duty have to be afforded to come out to get paid for that, because it's a labor issue. So it's a balance that you really have. So what I'll do is, if I call a second and I start seeing my mutual aid units running, they all know where my writ pack is, because some of them don't wear Scott packs. So they'll go grab my Scott writ pack out of my engine, and I'll designate, like you said, if there's a third due engine coming up that I don't really need anything that point in time, they're my writ. and I'll look right at their chief and say, "You're my writ," and
Yeah.
they know what to do. They know what to do.
Yeah.
So, sorry to interrupt.
That's good. No, that's good.
One of the commenters there that Joe was saying that part of the challenge is dedicated RIT team often gets assigned something else because no one else is showing up to fill tactical priorities.
Yep.
I
agree.
And I don't know what the controversy about this question is about RIT, but I know a little bit that I think, at least over this way, it's changing a little bit where instead of having a dedicated RIT team, they're doing the next people up or the RIT. Do you have any thoughts on that?
That's kind of what I was explaining,
like
right?
Deck? Yeah.
Dylan, like I'm basically saying that like my dedicated writ might be coming from Duquesne Annex.
Yeah.
Well, Duquesne Annex might just be a little more delayed, but Portview might be over the hill. They might be there, and I'll grab one of their chiefs and say, "You're it right now."
Yeah. I think the root of the I don't want to call it an issue, but the issue is that there's two types of commands that we're trying to compare to each other right now. You got your SOG driven fireground where every unit has an assignment, and you have your incident command dictated fireground where, unless command tells you to do something in a incident command driven fireground, you're not supposed to be doing anything. Versus an SOG driven fireground, I have the assignments already built out of the first engine initiates a water supply and stretches a hand line to be able to extinguish the fire. The second two engine completes the water supply and stretches a backup line to the main fire area. So, I think that's where the actual controversy is.
I don't see much of a controversy.
Yeah,
I guess there's different schools of thought on it. The only problem I think with SOG driven command is that you don't know necessarily what kind of manpower you're getting on every unit.
Yeah,
we're not all paid departments like McKeesport.
Right. You live in reality. You live in a volunteer world where maybe 94 RIT coming from the annex, they might be light. They might only have 2 or 3 guys. You know what I mean? And they're going to supplement the RIT that I signed. You see what I'm saying? They're just going to go to it. But yeah, you're right, Keith. I don't understand the controversy. You have, like Dylan will tell you, there's jobs to do on the fireground, and I need them done the most efficient and safe manner that's possible to do them. So it's up to me to tell you what to do, I believe. You know what I mean? Because it changes it's so fluid. A fireground is the most fluid thing you could be on, really, I believe. An active fire scene, Dylan. You get where I'm coming from?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, I don't know if it's much controversy. I think it's something with the volunteer fire service that we make everything a controversy. I mean, what works for
who was making it a controversy?
I don't know. I mean, just people tend to chime on social media about everybody has their opinion about how somebody else does something. Like, and my opinion, like, hey, if whatever works for 247 works for 247, what works for 232 works for 232. Sure. As long as you're getting the job done, you're getting the job done. I mean, what works best for your community works best for your community. And that's always bothered me about, I don't know what it is, volunteer firefighters, that we love to bash each other on social media. And you don't see any other public safety entity doing that. You don't see cops getting on there bashing other police departments. You don't see EMS getting on there.
Go on some of those cop pages.
Probably.
Yeah.
But it seems to be a thing with volunteer firefighters. Like, we love to bash everybody else about what they're doing. Even though it's a brotherhood, but we love to bash each other about
one thing we hate most is change.
Yeah.
Right.
So this Keegan's asked us a couple times, what's the best thing you get out of your time of being a live-in, Dylan?
I think it really helped me grow up. I moved in the day after I turned 18. I had been waiting for that day for a long time. And I moved in and, I had to do my own laundry. I had to figure out my meals for the week. I had to, do everything on my own. Not that I had someone waiting on me hand and foot at home, but, occasionally the garbage would get taken out whenever it, got full. Or, if I left a dish in the sink, sometimes I'd come back and it would be done. You leave a dish in the sink in the firehouse and there's someone, your mother doesn't work here. Why is your dish in the sink, Keegan? Just throwing a little dig out there since it was the.
He's one of your guys.
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
that's awesome.
And Chief Price, how do you overcome shortages in SOG rolled, i.e. first do truck with 2 men?
Why do you mention shortages?
One of the things that we do, specifically with our alarm assignments at Berkeley, we have extra companies on the assignment to make up for those staffing shortages. So if a ladder truck goes with 2 people and they're only able to do inside truck duties, or they're only able to do outside truck duties, we have a couple extra units on the call to be able to fulfill the rest of that duty.
So then this command obviously has to tell that extra company that now you're going to do part of this first do truck or whatever.
Yep. There's been times where we've put engines together. So engine 1 came with 2 people, engine 3 came with 2 people. Engine 3, go over there to engine 1's officer. You're going to operate under the identity of engine 1 for the rest of this incident. So it kind of takes engine 3 out of the equation and properly staffs engine 1.
That's kind of like what I was saying about the RIT. You know what I mean? If I assign Versailles-Borough RIT and 294 shows up with 2 guys, which happens because it's the way of the world, I'll just throw 294's guys right in with Versailles' guys and say, you're part of that RIT, my first do RIT right now. You know what I mean?
It's not so different, just a river or 2 away. That's crazy.
Right. And it's common
sense. You would
sense.
think that the fire truck's going to fall into the river if it goes across the bridge.
Right. It's freaking common sense. Everything we do is really, that's on fire.
Yeah.
We got shit on our trucks that can fix that. Let's go fix it.
Well, we're already coming up on an hour in this topic. So before we get too much longer, Dillon, something new in your personal life that I see on Facebook? Big announcement?
Yeah, I just got engaged back in October. We got our pictures done downtown. We're going to be getting married next year. Me and my fiance Abby.
Congratulations to you.
Make sure you get your leather helmets in the prenup, man.
Yeah, right.
Before I let you go, I just wanted to mention too, we get a chance. I wanted to ask you a little bit about your history in the, growing up at the fire department stuff, but maybe we'll bring you on another time. We'll talk about that. But I know you work for Allegheny County 911 too. You're leading the South Zone, right?
I work for a local dispatch agency. Yes.
Just curious, past shift commanders, any great past shift commanders you've worked with that you can think of?
None really. Nussbaum.
Hey, Dillon, I want to give you a call.
And George. Steve Mattis. Steve Mattis is a great one.
Nobody can hear you anyways. Don't worry about that question.
I rarely do this, Dillon, but are you a fire instructor yet?
I'm not. I'm waiting on the results for my test. I had just taken it within the past couple weeks here, and I wanted to have it earlier. I was waiting on a Fire 2 cert. My classes, it just didn't work out with COVID, but I'm waiting on it.
I'm going to say this right now, and I don't say this very much about many people right out of the gate, but dude, you're going to be a badass instructor, man. I'm not lying.
I appreciate it.
I really look forward to hearing your name more.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep.
All right, Dillon, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me, Keith. You were an all right shift commander. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I was all right. I know about that.
All right.
All right, Chief.
Hey, guys.
Come out of here. Don't do anything stupid yet, Dillon. You're still on, so hold on.
Put your shirt back on for crying out loud.
Oh, sorry.
I'll see you. All right, man. That ran a little bit longer than I thought. That always happens. So let's get into our news segments.
Sure.
So thankfully this week we don't have any firefighter fatalities to discuss. Last week we had 3, so we had more than enough last week. But this week in the news again, we had a firefighter shot, Ellerbe, North Carolina. Assistant chief was struck by gunfire on a fire call. I understand they didn't release the name of this fire chief yet, nor have they released his condition that I can find. Mm-hmm. But they said that he's expected to be okay. But apparently he was shot in the leg. They were responding to a fire alarm. And I guess the resident, I can only assume some type of psych issues, shot him in the leg as they were pulling up on the scene. He was life flighted to a local trauma center. The Richmond County Sheriff's Office filed 2 counts as assault on emergency personnel with a firearm, felonious assault with a deadly weapon, and intent to kill and inflict serious injury against the suspect. So that's good. At least they got the suspect. So number 2 story we want to talk about. This is local. I had a big trench collapse rescue in Charleroi last week. This was on Thursday of last week, 8:20 at night. The victim was in there for about 5 hours. He was pinned in cold clay near a bucket or excavator. There was a secondary collapse occurred during the rescue, but they had the trench panels up, stopped debris from hitting the victim. There's crews from 20 plus departments across 5 counties, fire, EMS, technical rescue, hazmat, tools and tactics used, trench boxes, vac-com truck, air cutters, rope systems, hand digging, improvised vacuum hose tool. Medics rotated in and out of the trench to give oxygen, IVs, and emotional support to the victim. The victim was conscious, talking throughout the rescue, walked out under his own power. From understanding, he just has a fractured ankle, some bumps and bruises, blood clot, missing teeth. And he was transported to AGH. But man, that's pretty impressive. You don't usually see that.
Yeah. I didn't listen to that, but I got a lot of pretty decent information about that. Actually, Sullivan was there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he responded with whoever, but he was there. But we were talking pre-show. We were gonna let's put something together for this, because I think there's a lot to be said about the intricacies of this incident, and I'd like to have some people on, coming up on that. But yeah, kudos to everybody that worked that incident, man. That's really awesome.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll reach out to some people we know are involved in that, see if we can get something lined up for that. So the other thing I wanted to throw out there is going to be in our description for the link for the fundraiser. They're doing a fundraiser for a guy from Cecil Township Fire Company, Lieutenant Justin Gonringer. Lieutenant's suffering stage 3 Hodgkin's lymphoma. He was diagnosed this past June after he had some neck swelling and got examined, and they found out that's what it was. But he's currently receiving bi-weekly chemotherapy. Was an interior firefighter, sort of stepped back from that while he's going through his treatments. Lives in Cecil Township with his wife and 2 children. Both parents are missing work due to the treatments, helping with the child care. So he's, suffering some financial strains. So if you want to go to the links in our description, that's a fundraiser for him. To 100% of the proceeds are going to go directly to his family. So everybody can reach out to help him, and our thoughts are with him and his family as he goes through.
Hashtag Gandhi Strong.
Hashtag Gandhi Strong. Yeah,
right.
I saw that. And then the last thing I just want to throw out there, I see the PNC Park, the Great Pittsburgh Pirates are having an appreciation night for first responders, September 15th through 17th. We have the information or the link to get your tickets. They're going to be donating. I don't know exactly how this works, but there's a $4 donation per ticket to a first responder cause. I think you can pick the cause maybe off the list that you want it to go to, but some cheap tickets there, even though the Pirates suck. But hey, go watch Pirate Game. Enjoy the beautiful stadium. See that? Did you see that Savannah Bananas were in town?
Yeah, I seen that was over the weekend. Yeah, that's a couple guys I talked to went to it, but
that looks like a lot of fun.
It's like the Harlem Globetrotters of
baseball, yeah,
basically, right?
Yeah.
So
they have some rules, like the game can't be over 2 hours, so it doesn't drag on and stuff like that. And they have like some fun things. I think of like if a fan catches a foul ball, the player's out.
The guy went from nothing. The guy that started that went from, I read his bio on an article I was reading. The guy went from nothing to like a $50 million empire or something.
Yeah.
Some crazy amount, like all from nothing.
Yep. Yeah, pretty interesting. So that's all I got. Unless, Geno, you got anything?
No, I do not.
So I just want to give another shout out to our sponsor, FireCam, before we go here, and just remind everybody, if you go to our YouTube channel and our X channel, make sure to subscribe on both. I think we're getting close to 400 subscribers on our YouTube channel. I know since we started broadcasting on Facebook, I think our YouTube views have gone down a little bit because everybody's watching on Facebook all of a sudden. But don't forget, switch over to YouTube and subscribe and get a chance to win this helmet cam that we're going to be giving away here. And also on our X channel, one of our first 200 subscribers will be entered to win a chance to get a FireCam helmet flashlight. So don't forget, subscribe on both channels and check out firecam.com for their products. So, and make sure you like, subscribe, leave some comments, give us any feedback, suggestions you got. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, Wednesday at 7 p.m.
Take care, everybody. Try not to suck.